Pam, the uncertainty in the election, what does that mean for the higher education sector?
Well, I think there are going to be some very interesting debates because, of course, in the budget of 2010, the Labour government allocated money for 20,000 additional university places for students going to university or hoping to go to university in autumn 2010. If that becomes part of a negotiating agenda with other political parties as people try and form a government, I think students and universities will face very great disappointment. We issued a general election scorecard to all parliamentary candidates, and we had some very interesting returns. The Conservatives were rather too busy to send any returns in. Labour generally was supportive of some of the things that we were saying. The Liberal Democrats have their well-known policy about tuition fees, but all political parties said they would increase numbers in 2010. And they need to deal with that, and they need to deal with that quickly. In the long term, I would have thought the prospects of having, for example, a very differentiated market in fees, which some people advocate, may have receded, because it would be unclear to me that any political party that thought it might have to fight an election sooner rather than later would wish to go to the polls having advocated that kind of policy in Parliament. So there will be very serious issues to deal with, not only about student numbers, but how we fund universities in the next period.
And how soon do you think it will be that tuition fees do go up?
Well, I don't think this is going to be an early decision. It's not going to be in the interests of any party to put it on the table. But Lord Brown will be reporting in a fees review in the autumn, which was established with the agreement of the Conservative Party, who agreed the conditions with the Labour government of the time. I think that Lord Brown will obviously want to think what he's going to recommend based on the evidence, but also backbench MPs who've been elected for the first time to this Parliament will also want to think very carefully about any primary legislation that raises fees or indeed creates inequity of resource amongst universities.
So do you think the 50% of young people going into higher education is still affordable for the country?
Oh yes, of course, and it's 50% of people between 18 and 30, and we're nowhere near yet OECD targets or comparisons. The real question that we've all got to ask, or that politicians have got to ask, is can you afford for people not to go to university? Because of course there's a knock-on effect eventually in terms of unemployment, and it's much better for the country to have people studying and often earning on a part-time basis than it is to have people adding to the dole queues. The other thing about the demand for university places is very interesting. There's very high demand from people over 30 and over 40. In other words, having to rethink what they would like to do with their lives as a result of redundancy or career changes. Those people with higher level qualifications and degrees could only be an asset to the country, and we need to make sure that they have the funded places that they need to create their life opportunities of the future.
And finally, is there a big worry in the higher education sector about the forthcoming cuts?
Oh, there will be huge concern. I mean, after all, the parties have gone into the election with very different policies on this. Labour has said there will be no more cuts in higher education in 2010-11. The Liberal Democrats have said something similar. The Conservatives said they wanted to take $6 billion away from public spending in the current financial year. If the Treasury were to apply that on a pro rata basis, bearing in mind that 2/3 of the current budget of business, innovation and skills is devoted to university science, in other words research or student support, universities would find themselves in a very difficult position. And we do need a strong voice in government, whoever forms the government, to ensure that the funding of universities is given a priority and not automatically put on the back burner or indeed actually cut in the current financial year.
Pam Tatlow, thank you very much.